is a guy that made a play. I just saw it back again, and there's not much our pivots could have done. He knew exactly what he was going to do before he got the ball. Took a good touch, and it was world-class strike, and I think that was the difference. Because I'm watching this game unfold, and I'm thinking we have them right where we want them, and in particular in the second half. And we talked about working them over in the first half to make sure we put ourselves in position in the second half to really get after it. And the guys did that. The guys executed, and the only place where we fell short was the goal. And I think this game is a cruel game. But again, I think measuring yourself up to some of the perennial teams in this league. I told the guys, that type of effort, that type of quality, we can do some things. So just really proud of the performance. Even at the death, with the guys making, trying to get into the goal, but it just wasn't. It wasn't meant to be.
I believe this is the first time you guys were held without a goal since this run that you're on began in early June. Did you sense any frustration out there among the front 3 or 4 guys, and does that play into not being able to score a goal? You see a couple of shots get blocked, and then does it get in their head at all?
It may. Again, I think their goalkeeper made some top saves. The defenders were throwing their bodies at the ball. So again, it's sometimes it's not as much as what we want to impose on ourselves, but we're also playing against a very good team that made plays on the night defensively. And so I think that's for attacking players, that's always going to be frustrating, because I think we had some really, really good looks. But again, games results are very finicky, and you got to continue to do the same things. Last game against Portland, Diogo made a fantastic play, and we ended up winning the game. Tonight we played just as well, and didn't make that play in front of goal. So I think that's the difference tonight.
Were there any individual performances tonight that stood out to you in spite of the loss?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think their front 3 are really dynamic, and so I think our pivots did a good job with our back line, and really doing a lot of dogged work, especially close to goal. And to be fair, I think the guys up front did a great job of making play predictable for the guys behind them. Again, there's not one negative that I can take from this game. And like I always say, we're always improving every phase of the game, every aspect of the game. But the overwhelming feeling for me is we executed the game plan. The guys got in good spots. And the hardest thing to do in football is to score goals. And tonight we just didn't do that.
And then how quickly do you want the guys quickly to turn the page? And what does training look like this week to get back on track for you guys?
Yeah, again, I think these last, whatever it's been, 5 weeks, the guys have been amazing in training. And again, I said this after Portland, the culture, I feel like at the beginning of the year was more coach-led and player-guided. I really feel strong about how these players are leading themselves in this time, and I think that's always a sign of a team that can bounce back after a tough result. But it's a tough result, but it's a really good performance. So I think we just hit the ground on Tuesday and really focus on performing the same way, but hopefully getting the 3 points against San Jose.
Pablo, you like left-footed players on the left side and back, but you're going to have 2 guys suspended for yellow card accumulation. Have you thought about what will happen? I mean, Sam Junqua will be available, but he can't play both spots.
Right. Yeah. We're going to have a wrong-footed player in one of those positions. We'll just kind of see how kind of the week unfolds. Have a few looks in training to see what feels comfortable, and then we'll go for it. Yeah, I mean, again, nothing's been really easy for us this year, but the mindset and the ability to overcome adversity has been very strong for the group, and so I think this is another challenge for us, but I think one that we can overcome.
Will Emeka and Nelly be cleared to start now?
I think so. A big part of that is feedback and making sure that how he felt after whatever it was, 30, 35 minutes. We're bringing him up incrementally to prevent any kind of muscular injury. You know, he hasn't had a full week of training, and I think your body has to go through that because, again, the first time he plays 90, if we have a midweek game, he's probably not going to recover in time. So you have to almost go through the grinder all over again after being out for whatever it was, 6 weeks. So we'll have a chat. We'll see where he's at. We'll talk with Brandon, our performance coach, and we'll make a collective decision on that.
As far as the attack, was it more the finishing in the final product, or do you think it was maybe the pass that sets that up? Because we could see frustrated players. There was some arm waving going on depending on where somebody made a run or who didn't dummy a ball.
Yeah, no, I think it was a little bit of both. I think there was a time in the second half where we had Willie in the middle of the field naked, and we just weren't able to pick him out, and it would have resulted in a breakaway. And the way they defend, they're very man-to-man. And so when the first guy breaks the line of pressure, there should always be someone free. And it just felt like at times the pass was off to the wrong foot, too high. And again, I think that's a byproduct of 3 games in a week and guys getting up to speed. But having said that, I still think we created enough opportunities to, find the back of the net.
Both Caliscan and Emeka and Nelly got forward, overlapping way further upfield than we're used to seeing. You've talked about getting more players into the box. And so is this like a long-term message and a progression of ideas, or was it something you were really pushing for tonight?
Well, again, I think at that point, I think Noel, the one thing that we talked to our right backs about, because they're part of the 3 build, is there space in front of you to exploit? So it doesn't make sense if you have Noel overlapping our winger, whoever that is, Gozo or Johnny Russell. That doesn't make sense. But if there's space and you find your winger, run the half space. If someone follows him, their back line pushes back, which is okay, right? If no one follows him, then he got in a really good spot for a half space cross. And again, I think tonight we wanted to create really good opportunities and not just cross balls into the box. And but to your point, I think there's moments where I think we could have been a bit more patient. I think we could have made different decisions. But at the end of the day, the players play what they see, and I don't mind losing the ball in the attacking third when you're being brave and you're trying to make plays. Luna did a good job of that. Diogo did a good job of that. Some of those plays came off, some of them didn't. But the mindset should always be, let's go. Let's try to score goals, man.
Yeah. It looked like you had Sam ready to go in the 35th minute, and then you held off. But you did make the sub at halftime. So what were you thinking there, and what is Alex's condition?
Yeah, so, obviously it was when Alex went down with the ankle, right? And he's been struggling with that a little bit. And again, there was a couple moments, players don't want to ever tell you that they're struggling, but I just saw a couple defensive actions that looked like we could have easily conceded at the end of the first half, and just wanted to make sure we had, a healthy body in that moment. So that was the decision behind that.
Talk about moments in games and choices to change the game and all of that. It looked like tonight the offense, they were kind of in between trying to take the game on themselves. There was a lot of shots from outside the box. They just kind of found a defender, and instead of making that maybe extra pass and finding the teammate, you have obviously give the players freedom like you just talked about. How is that critiqued during the week? Do you look at those and say, hey, you know what? Maybe next time that's a pass, or how far do you get into their
100%. Everything gets looked at. And, I think tonight, that's what I think I was talking about is we were a bit impatient to find the best quality entry into the box. And I think the reason for that was when we broke, we had so much space, right? And so then you get caught in this, like, I'm just going to keep driving the ball, and then it's too late to find a teammate. So there's a number of plays where the player that broke the line of pressure, one of our attacking players, ended up losing the ball closer to goal. And to your point, I think that's the moment where we've got to really we've got to grow as a group to find the best option, whether it's an extra square pass that then finds an outside back or a winger exploiting the half space, which then it gets cut back, and now an extra pass in the box. The defenders are going a million miles an hour in their brains. They're trying to close everything down. That extra pass is so unsettling to defenses because they want you to shoot because they're in positions to block it. That extra pass, now you have to repivot. An extra pass after that, you have to repivot again. And so just more calm and more poise in those moments, I think, would have helped us out tonight.
The defense has really gelled so far through the season. They've kind of been carrying the team, obviously. What's it going to take to finally break through it? You just have to wait for the rumored signings in the window. How do you break it through on this offense?
Yeah, I think the guys have done a good job of getting on the board the last 5 games, and we're I believe in the guys that we have. Some of them are in different parts of their journey than others. And I think that's what's been the hardest thing is you have some experience, you have some youth, and then it's just that collective understanding that really starts when guys start to speak the same language. And of course, Ari is a player that we have a lot of belief in. We think he could be a top striker in this league, but obviously he's just starting out his journey. And there's moments that, and we'll go back and watch video and we'll talk about how you can hold the ball up a little bit differently, how your movement, and he's made some really, really good progress. So this group is the group moving forward and until someone else comes in the building. But again, I think about the chances that we had, and then I think about, to your point, of the extra pass we could have made. And I think that's a real learning opportunity for our group heading into next week.
Lastly, there's no moral victories probably, but is there any losing to the best team in the league right now? They've moved to the top of the table.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's what I told the guys after the game. We talk about being a top team in this league, and when you go toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in this league, it's not me saying that we could be a top team. It's them feeling and experiencing that they had this game in their grasp, right? I think, in particular, that second half, there was large moments of the game where we had a chance. It came back out. We secured it, created another one, came back out. And so I think when you feel it as a player that you're going up against a top team in this league and you play toe-to-toe with them, it's no longer me just telling them. It's them believing it. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway. And so now the onus is on us to have a good week of training and come out next week against another good team. To me, there's no bad teams in this league. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. And hopefully the frustration from not getting the result this weekend is seen in training and, more importantly, next Saturday.
Hi, Pablo. Sorry, I didn't know if you
Andrea?
could see me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talk about your team's resilience all the time and how you are so confident in that. And I think we saw that whether there was a point on the board or not, that resilience was nonstop with your guys tonight. And I was going to ask you kind of what was the morale and message in the locker room afterward? Like, were the guys able to, one, how proud are you of the resilience? And were the guys able to, I don't know, be aware of the fact that they did fight for each other out there despite the results?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Andrea. I think the guys performed to such a high level. Again, I think their setup is very, very unique, something we don't come across real often. They took in the tactical information and applied it, 10 out of 10. Their strike force up front asks a ton of questions to a back line. The guys in the back and our pivots did a great job of neutralizing that. And so, and they never wavered. They never wavered, even when we got scored on, Rafa going up and let's go and let's win it. And so the feeling in the locker room after the game was one of obviously frustration, but you could see in their eyes the resolve and we got this moving forward.
Pablo, se nota la frustración en ti y muchos estamos así. Acabas de decir que un pase extra dentro del área le da chance al defensa para acomodarse mejor. Este es de los partidos donde dices, que lo colectivo no funciona, tiene que aparecer lo individual. Lo colectivo funcionó bien para llegar al área, pero no para definir. Entonces, ¿sientes que faltó lo individual de alguien como Pablo, como Ojeda, como Diogo, como Diego, que tengan que disparar en algún momento para romper esa línea defensiva que tenía? ¿Faltó? ¿Qué es lo que pasó ahí? ¿Miedo, temor o por qué no hubo muchos disparos de individuales?
No sé, porque los jugadores ven lo que ven y toman la decisión que toman cerca del área. Eso no lo puede, o sea, siempre trabajamos cómo queremos entrar en la área, cómo queremos crear superioridad numérica cerca de la área, pero las decisiones y cuando disparan al arco lo toman ellos. Y el chance más claro que tuvimos fue la oportunidad de Diogo. Y lo hizo muy bien, la jugada muy bien, pero hoy día no tocó meter gol. Pero el partido anterior sí, y ese es el fútbol. O sea, el gol que marcaron Cincinnati fue una jugada individual y es de una posición donde no hay mucho peligro. Pero ese individual marcó la diferencia en el partido. Y eso es el fútbol, porque la colectiva yo creo que jugaron bastante bien, llegamos y pensé que a lo mejor el Diego iba a anotar de una jugada individual, hizo varias, pero esta noche no nos tocó.
So the question was, do you think we lacked something individual effort to kind of put us past to win the game just because of the collective? It looked good, but Pablo said as a collective they train how to get into the box, how to create number overloads into the box, but when it comes to making a decision to shoot and when to shoot and how to shoot, that comes down to the players. Obviously the goal Cincinnati scored came just from an individual effort from a place that there wasn't a lot of danger usually, just a world-class strike, and the one clear-cut opportunity we had was Diogo's. The build-up play was great, but just the shooting wasn't on our side tonight like last week it was with Diogo scoring that really good goal. So that's just soccer.
La última, Pablo. Dices que nada de reprochar en este juego, pero si hay una oportunidad de cambiar algo para el próximo partido, ¿harías?
Pues este partido fue distinto solamente porque venimos 3 partidos siguientes en una semana. Tenemos que hacer cambios porque es imposible tener la energía para poder jugar como queremos jugar si ponemos el mismo 11 del otro partido. Es imposible. Necesita energía. La respuesta es no, porque las decisiones que tomamos lo estudiamos, pero todo el día, es nuestro trabajo para estudiar. Y como dije, el colectivo jugó bastante bien, tuvimos oportunidades y la única diferencia fue que un jugador de Cincinnati hizo una gran jugada para ganar el partido.
So the question was, looking back, would you have changed anything coming into this game? Paulo said no, that the collective, like he said before, did really well, just wasn't their night. Again, the goal, the difference was marked by an individual effort from Cincinnati.
Pablo, will there be a little extra energy in the building next week with San Jose coming in and Chicho coming back and former teammates facing him and all that?
Yeah, I think there could be a component of that. I also think that we didn't have a really good performance. I think it was the first game of the season. It kind of left a bad taste in our mouths that we've been kind of set the tone for the first part of the season. So, I think the players, more importantly than the individual, I think it's more the collective. I think that's so far away also, DJ. I think we're not the same group. I think there's a different chemistry within the group, and it's really about focusing on the things that we have to do to get a result against San Jose.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Brian, se puede sentir en Pablo la frustración de la derrota. ¿Cómo está el ambiente con tus compañeros?
How's the morale around the team? We can obviously sense that Pablo's frustrated.
Bueno, sí estamos un poquito muy dolidos por el resultado, porque nos hicieron el gol ya terminando el partido y eso sí duele mucho, pero el equipo está tranquilo, todos estamos haciendo las cosas bien y ya estamos pensando en San José.
The result does hurt, obviously, with them marking it so close to the end of the game, but the team is calm and we're already shifting our focus to San Jose.
¿Qué calificativo darías tu desempeño en este partido, así en lo personal, más allá de la derrota?
How would you personally rate your performance tonight during the loss?
Bueno, yo creo que en lo personal sentí que estuve bien defensivamente y con el balón. Es lo que me toca hacer, defender y tratar de equivocarme lo menos posible.
I felt good defending and on the ball, and obviously my job is to just make as little mistakes as I can.
El próximo partido es fundamental porque vas a jugar contra un rival directo en la clasificación y también su ingrediente extra es la llegada de Chicho, ¿no? Entonces ustedes se conocen muy bien, el equipo lo conoce bien y saben cómo juega él. Entonces eso también va a traer un atractivo especial para ustedes.
So obviously the next match is super important, just with competing with San Jose, who's a direct rival for a playoff competition, or probably playoff spot, but also Chicho coming in, and you guys know how he plays, the team knows how he plays. Is that just a little bit extra into the next game?
Sí, obviamente es un partido directo. Todos estamos pensando en que tenemos que ganar sí o sí y pues obviamente pues Chicho es amigo de todos aquí y va a ser especial, pero igual hay que frenarlo porque es un jugador muy bueno y si le das espacio hace gol.
Yes, we as a team already know that that's a must-win game for us. Obviously, Chicho is friends with everyone in the building, but we know that we have to stop him just because he's a very good player, and if we give him an opportunity, he'll score.
Brian, Cincinnati's now top of the table. They're the best team in the league according to points. Were you surprised with the intensity of the match, especially in the first half? It seemed like it started chippy and stayed that way for a while.
So Cincinnati es el mejor equipo de la liga, ya están en primer lugar en la tabla. ¿Estuviste sorprendido con la intensidad del partido, específicamente en el primer tiempo, con tanta falta?
Sí, obviamente me pareció que es un equipo que toca muy bien, juega muy bien y se mueven mucho. Entonces sí fue muy difícil al principio tratar de controlar a los jugadores de ellos, pero al final siento que los detalles son los que hacen la diferencia y tuvimos muchas opciones de hacer gol, pero ellos tuvieron también una y con eso basta.
Yeah, I noticed right away they're a team that can really move the ball around. There's a lot of movement between their players, so obviously finding a way to stop them. But it just comes down to the details. Obviously, we had a lot of opportunities to mark a goal, and we didn't, and they had one, and they did.
And there are no moral victories in football and soccer, right? But what do you take from a game where you had the opportunity to beat the best team in the league at the moment?
¿Qué toman de este partido de haber podido ganarle al mejor equipo de la liga?
Bueno, pues, hay que aprender. Ellos son muy buenos y yo creo que cuando enfrentas a estos equipos tan buenos, siento que es muy importante para cada jugador saber en qué nivel futbolístico está, pues porque ellos son muy buenos. Entonces, pues al final sí es difícil el resultado, pero estamos bien.
So obviously playing such a top team, it comes down to just the individual reflection of where you're at a football standpoint, just because you know that you're going to be playing a good team. Obviously, it sucks that we lost, but the team is good.
Brian, para usted, ¿se sentía que el partido faltaba algo o que estaban cerca toda la noche?
Did you feel like something was missing from the match since you guys were so close the whole night?
Perdón, me repite la pregunta.
Pero que, pues, para el partido se siente que faltaba algo para ganar o meter un gol, o se siente que estaban cerca de ganar o meter gol toda la noche.
Sí, yo sentía que podíamos ganar porque teníamos muy bien controlados a ellos y nosotros llegábamos muchas veces, pero los detalles son los que cuentan contra estos equipos porque ellos tienen una sola oportunidad y te matan.
Yes, I did think that we could win the game just because we had so many opportunities near their goal. But again, the details that are what matter when you play against top competition. Obviously, you saw they had one chance at goal and they scored it.
Y cuéntanos en cuanto a poder controlar la defensa en jugar contra jugadores como Evander y frustrarle y el éxito que tenían en hacer eso.
How do you kind of control the defense when you're going up a player like Evander, and how do you stop him and get him frustrated?
Bueno, los días anteriores estuvimos mirando mucho que ellos buscaban mucho a Evander porque es como el centro de Cincinnati. Entonces creo que fue muy importante estar cerca de él, pero pues tenemos que controlarlos a todos porque si controlamos a Evander no nos puede hacer gol el otro, entonces sí es difícil, pero así pasa.
In the days prior, we were watching film and we took note that Evander is a lot of the center of the park of what Cincinnati like to do. So obviously just staying very close to him, but also keeping in mind to control the rest of the team because if we're all marked up on him, then another guy is going to score on us.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
Gracias, Brian.
Gracias.
Put these on? Do I need to put these on or just leave it? No.
Thank you.
Yeah. How's it going, Sam?
Good.
You came on at the half. What was that experience like? I guess you didn't have the kind of the chippiness at the start of the game. You kind of just had to jump in right in the middle of the action. How'd you feel like it went?
I think that the guys in the first half did a good job, kind of wearing them down a little bit, and then we kind of had a little bit more of momentum going into the second half, and we were able to push forward a little bit more. I think it's always nicer to have a little bit more time coming in as a sub because when you come in for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's kind of hard to get into the rhythm of the game and to make an impact. So it was nicer to have a solid chunk of time.
And then it seemed like you guys were just right there for so much of the game. 17 total shots, 7 shots on goal. What did you feel like was maybe lacking in the final third?
I think that we had a number of moments when we were breaking forward and it was maybe, 4v3, 4v4, and it was just the final pass that was lacking. I think there were a couple of chances where it ended up with us getting dispossessed and then them countering and, them kind of making up some ground the other direction. But I think that despite that, we had enough chances, good chances, where we could have scored, and we had some close ones too.
So does the sting of this loss for you guys say something about how far this team has come this season?
I think so, yeah, because we felt good and we felt like it was a winnable game, which is, great to see the team growing into a position where, we're playing against one of the best teams in the league, and we feel like we were hard done when we ended up losing 1-0 right at the end of the game. So I think expectations within the locker room and kind of belief have risen and have changed.
And then what's the biggest lesson that you guys can take away from tonight's match heading into a big one for next week?
I think that, it's kind of the same thing that we've experienced in previous matches too, but having to, focus on all the details for the entire 90 minutes, you never know the moment that could cost you or could win you the game. Needing to just have a complete performance and to kind of, be better in both boxes.
You played San Jose at the very start of the year, and it went really poorly and kind of set the tone. And Pablo was asked if there might be a little extra emotion in a game seeing them again, and especially given where you are in the standings here and it being a 6-point swing. What do you think?
I think more so because of the importance of, in the context of playoffs, because these are the games where not only do we really want to win and get all 3 points, but we don't want them to get any points out of it. So it's going to be a key one.
Sam, RSL has 2 great left backs at the moment. You probably want to play every minute of every game, but having 2 kind of not similar, but you have different strengths, both you and Alex. Does that make it any better when you get in? Kind of what you can bring to the game compared to what Alex brings, how that changes up when you come in?
I'd like to think that, it gives the team options. They decided to make a switch at half and to kind of change things up a little bit, and I feel like, I'd like to think that I was able to bring some energy and to bring a little bit something different. And I think that it's also been nice on the flip side to be able to play some games together when I'm playing left center back and to not have it be kind of a zero-sum game between us.
And the defense has really gelled from the start of the season, as pointed out. How does that help any way kind of build to kind of find an answer for the offensive side? You guys aren't responsible for scoring goals, or a lot of them, but how does the team kind of figure that out?
Could you clarify?
It's like, is there any stress or pressure between the defense kind of needling the offense to get a little bit, score a few more goals and kind of find an answer there?
Not really, because I think that, the offensive players are kind of the unsung heroes of our, good defensive performances, because we're a high-pressing team. They work really, really hard to press, as much of the game as they can, and we win a lot of balls high. We take a lot of pressure off of the defenders because everybody's committed to defend. And we just want to support them and to help kind of sustain attacks and to kind of join into the attack and, do it collectively rather than it being, offense versus defense.
Sam, do you realize that you are the second player in the team playing more games? From 23, you played 22, 12 starts and 10 substitutions. What means for you and what's your feelings?
I'm really happy to have been able to kind of contribute almost every game. I think that comes down to availability. You know, I always try to, you know, I can't control whether I'm going to start the game or whether I'm going to come in, but if I'm making myself available and I'm performing in training, then I put myself in a good position to be able to come in and get chosen and to help the team.
Cool. Anyone else? All right, thank you guys. Have a good night.